Yo, what is going on, guys? You got Hikertoad here, bringing you back CPC Week 2. Last week we went up against our good pal Rob Jr., where he ended up coming up on top. And this week we are going up against the DD Quad. And spoilers, there's actually going to be a replay this week. So, definitely that's something to look forward to, but let's go over what his team is. So he has the Clefable, the Garchomp, Roserade, Cobalion, Cofagrigus, Cloyster, Raichu, Gastrodon, Xatu, Mega Houndoom, and the Bisharp. So just looking at notable threats, the Mega Houndoom is annoying to switch into. The Cloyster is potentially threatening. The Garchomp is always threatening with the Z moves, and defensive threats potentially the Gastrodon and stuff like the Kofag, as that does make my Mega Mawile's ability neutered. So, with that in mind, we have our first Mon, the Mega Mawile. We have a defensive set this week with, mostly defensive. Basically, it's to help check the Cloyster, and I really want Rocks, as his removal is the Xatu and the Cloyster, which is definitely not the best, and I definitely want to try and abuse that this week. So the Rocks, I definitely want to bring the Rocks, and if he does not bring the Cofagrigus, he struggles to switch into Mawile. Pretty complex spread. Basically, the Spadef is for I can take a Hidden Power Fire from the Roserade. The speed, I think the speed is for Adamant Bisharp under Webs. And then I just have HP and defense to help take on the Cloyster. So that is the Mawile, and I want to actually skip right here. And because his removal is the Cloyster and Xatu, I want to take advantage of that, so I am bringing the Sticky Webs, as I can outspeed stuff like the Garchomp and the Mega Houndoom that could be very threatening otherwise, as well as the Roserade, and I'm not really fearing the an offensive variant of the Cobalion. I feel like if he would bring it, it would definitely be more defensive, so I'm not as worried about that, but mainly his other mons that I mentioned. So pretty standard set, just the Thunder, Sticky Webs, Energy Ball, and Hidden Power Ice hits his entire team for just neutral coverage at the very least, so that's definitely something that is very good. And with the Webs, I actually wanted the our Wincon this week for the Webs. We have the Nidoqueen, as this investment allows it to outspeed the max speed Mega Houndoom under the Webs. I don't want to risk him bringing it and not creeping anything, as Mega Houndoom is still really threatening, and that can make Nidoqueen cleaning very hard. As Nidoqueen puts in a lot of work, it 2KOs pretty much everything on his team, if not OKOing them. The only thing that can potentially take hits from this is a Spadef Gastrodon, which is why I do have the Toxic, so if I can predict it to come in and I can Toxic it, or I can just get up the hazards and pressure it like that. But this is going to be my win con this game, as it really just puts a lot of pressure on him. Even if the Webs aren't up, I can pretty much just get a kill if I play this correctly whenever it comes in. And so I want to be able to check his special attacking threats like the Mega Houndoom and the Roserade specifically. So I do have the Assault Vest Tornadus, as the Mega Houndoom I really struggle to switch into, as Fire Dark is just a very good combination against my team, and then the Roserade hits my team really hard as well, as if I wasn't Assault Vest, I take half from Sludge Bomb, and the Mega Mawile it's almost OHKO'd by a Hidden Power Fire, even if it's Mega Evolved, and so with prior damage can definitely just drop to a Hidden Power Fire from that if it's Life Orbed, so I definitely want a check to that, as well as just a good overall pivot versus his team. And so I have the Alolan Persians here for a few reasons. One of those reasons is Garchomp is Garchomp is pretty much impossible to prevent to get a kill with. S Sword Stances into Z move pretty much kills everything, but Alolan Persian can obviously outspeed that, as well as with a Fur Coat. It can take pretty much nothing from an Earthquake, and I doubt he would go hard for Outrage, as that's just a Mawile switch in. And so it also checks the Bisharp, which he could potentially bring if he's fearing the Webs, so it's definitely something that I do potentially expect, as well as this can check a Cloyster. But if Cloyster is a mixed variant with Hydro Pump and is Shell Smash, Hydro Pump, Rock Blast, and another coverage move, it can definitely potentially sweep me, so I really need to play careful around that, as it can do a lot of, as I think it can just straight up outgo my Mega Mawile as well as my Alolan Persian. This speed is just for the, I think it's the Garchomp, as I wasn't really, it's either the Garchomp or the, actually no, this is for the Cobalion, so I can just like taunt it if I predict him to go for Rocks or Parting Shot. Because like I said, I do predict him to just bring like a defensive Cobalion with Rocks if he does bring it, as offensive doesn't really match up that well in my opinion. So lastly, I do want to just really punish his hazard removal, as it's not that good, and if he doesn't bring it, then that I can just punish him even more, or if he wants to bring a more defensive team, as well as Quillfish can check a few things. Most notably, it can help as well check the Cloyster. I have a lot of checks to Cloyster, as it's a huge threat in my opinion. It can somewhat check the Mega Houndoom, which is why I have the Def investment, which is, I think I don't get to it KO'd by a Dark Pulse, which is very good. Other than that, it's mostly just here to get up spikes and like maybe get a Thunder Wave off of a threat like Roserade or maybe the Mega Houndoom. But that's pretty much it for this team builder. I will be back with the battle moment. We are back again once again with the CPC Week 2 battle against DD Quad. If you did skip the team builder part, I will quickly go over my team. And I have the bulky Mega Mawile with the Stealth Rocks, the Tornadus T with the Assault Vest, Life Orb Nidoqueen, which is my Wincon under Webs, Sashed, Sticky Webs Galvantula, Fast, bulky Persian with just HP and Phys Def for the Garchomp and stuff like that, and then the Quillfish for the hazards, as well as potential T-Wave support. So looking at the team that he brought, he did not bring the Mega Houndoom, and he did not bring the Cloyster or the Cobalion. So he definitely brought a team that I wasn't expecting, a more defensive team with stuff like the Cofagrigus, Gastrodon, Clefable, and then the potential Roserade being defensive as well, which definitely caught me a bit off guard. He does not have any removal, but he does have the Bisharp as a deterrent for the Sticky Webs. So with that, let us get into the game, as I am just going to lead off with my Alolan Persian, as I can just Parting Shot off on anything, as I'm just going to hard switch into my Tornadus here in case he is Scarfed, which he does go straight for the Leaf Storm, so I'm thinking that he might be Choice Scarfed, as I'm just going to go for the U-turn here, as I don't expect him to stay in, as he does reveal to be a more defensive Garchomp. So quickly just going to note, he has a really defensive team as well, as he's not even an offensive variant of the Garchomp, so definitely something to note there, as I'm just going to go into my Alolan Persian and try to prevent him from going for Rocks by going for the Taunt, as he just goes into Clefable, making the safe play, as I can just Parting Shot on the next turn, as he does make a aggressive good play by going hard into the Bisharp, which I didn't realize this until later on, but yeah, that just got a +3 boost, which is very scary and something that I under-prepped for a little bit, as I didn't realize that that's how it worked. But I'm just going to go into my Galvantula and fire off a Thunder, as this thing's a threat. I want to get chip damage off on this, as he's just going to go into Clefable. As I think on this turn, I switch out into my Mega Mawile, as I want to get up my Rocks at this point, as well as I want to get rid of my Intimidate, as Bisharp is really looking like the biggest threat at this point, as that and Clefable, Roserade are offensive threats. As I'm just going to get up my Rocks, I want to start hazard stacking him, which is why I'm just going to go into my Quillfish here, as its main job is to just get off the spikes. So I am going to try and just start spike stacking him, as well as with the Rocks, as he's going to go hard into the Roserade to try and most likely get spikes off of his own, as I do not have removal either, so it's definitely, we need to try and stack each other, and the winner of that will probably win the game, as he does get up a layer of spikes, as I'm just going to fire off the Hurricane in case he does want to try and stay in and get up another spike, as I do think he is Scarfed, like I said before, as unfortunately I do miss, which is definitely unfortunate, as I think that into Grass, that actually didn't kill into Grass Knot, but I could have gotten more chip, as I do get frozen, which is unfortunate, so Torn is like, could have been really useful. Oh, I thought, wow, yeah, you guys thought I didn't thaw. I got you. Got him. Stay woke. So I'm just gonna guess Grass Knot, as that doesn't really do much, so I'm just going to U-turn on out into my Galvantula, as I'm thinking I kind of want the webs at this point, as he actually does go for Mirror Coat, so it's good that I U-turned, at this point. But I do think I just want to get up my webs at this point, as he does switch out fearing the energy ball. But at this point, I think that going for webs was a misplay, as he revealed to be defensive Garchomp. Scarfed Roserade isn't as threatening as a Life Orb variant, and the Garchomp is proven to be defensive Rocky Helmet, and the Bisharp isn't that threatening. Well, it's not threatening, not under the web, so I definitely made Bisharp a whole lot more threatening, which I definitely think is a misplay on my part. I definitely think I shouldn't have gotten up the webs, but at the time I was thinking I really wanted to slow stuff like Roserade and Bisharp down, which just thinking back on it, obviously it's like hindsight is hindsight, but I definitely think that I shouldn't have made that play, and I definitely, as webs are now here to stay for the entire game, as I'm just going to try and get up more spikes, as he's just going to go for the wish, as that can somewhat negate the hazards onto whatever he goes into, as he does just go into the Roserade, as I'm going to get up another layer of spike, which I assume that he will most likely do the same on the following turn, as he does just get back to full, as my Qwilfish is still at a relatively healthy amount. And I'm just going to go into my Torn-T, as he does go for the Sludge Bomb, doesn't really do much, as he is not invested, so I'm just going to U-turn out, as once again I really don't expect him to stay in, and even if he does, I can just pivot to my Mawile, as now I can just start putting on the hurt with Nidoqueen, as I have two layers of spikes up, and I have the rocks. I'm not, he loses them on right here, pretty much, unless he went hard Bisharp, which definitely actually could have been a play. But I am going to kill the Clefable, which is really nice, as that was his only defensive Mon that was not affected by the hazards, as everything else will now just get whittled down by the hazards. As I think he went into Cofagris here, thinking that I might be more defensive, and that Bisharp might not kill with a +2 Sucker Punch, but I am very little HP invested, so Sucker Punch I think does kill me, or at least to roll heavily in his favor to kill me. So he does go into the Cofagris to try and get Chip off, as I'm just going to fire off the Earth Power, and I fortunately do get the crit, which does mean he doesn't get Chip off, but the most he did was around 40 or so. But he does obviously have to risk if I'm defensive or not, but I am obviously offensive, so I do have to switch out right there. I could have potentially went into my lone Persian right there, but if he Iron-Headed right there, predicting me to make such a play, I would have been in a terrible position, as Bisharp can actually if it's Jolly, it should outspeed my Mawile, and it can kill everything else with a combination of Sucker Punch, with pretty much just Sucker Punch. So I would be in a terrible position if he were to predict me, because I think Iron-Head kills, and if it doesn't, it pretty much almost does. So definitely, I really don't want to risk a lone Persian. It's pretty much my win con at this point, as I'm going to Parting Shot out here because the webs negate his Scarf if he is Scarf. As I'm just going to go into Torn, as he does get the Sludge Bomb Poison and the crit, which is unfortunate, so now I'm weakened. As he does actually reveal not to be the Scarf, so that was actually a good bluff on his part, I really believed it. So that was actually really good playing on his part. I thought it was Scarfed, but Scarfed wasn't really the most threatening thing versus this type of team that I built, or brought. So I'm just going to go for the Play Rough here, as he tries to get more Chip off on my Mawile, as he wants to try and get it in range of Bisharp, as it will die, as Gastrodon dies to the Play Rough. And right here, I should have Sucker Punched here no matter what, but I thought that I would, which was a misplay on my part for going for the Iron-Head. I went for Iron-Head here, but I thought that because he was defensive, I would outspeed. I didn't actually check, but I just assumed that I would outspeed. So I either assumed, I shouldn't assume that, which I shouldn't have assumed that no matter what, but because I did assume that, he could have potentially had speed to outspeed a Mawile even under the webs or something like that. At least Adamant Mawile, because there's no way I'm gonna run Jolly. Jolly Mawile is significantly weaker, so I'd never run that. But now I'm just forced to go into my Nidoqueen, which is unfortunate because I'm most likely going to lose out on differential points here, as I do not want to mess around with the Bisharp. I mean, not the Bisharp. Yeah, he goes into Gastrodon here. I don't know why, because this Autumn obviously dies in the bath. Gastrodon in the bath. Wow, that's whack. So yeah, he's just going to go into the Bisharp, which is mighty unfortunate, as I'm not going to risk my Persian. That would be a choke if he did go for the Iron Head, and I would rather not lose. And I would rather win 3-0 than just lose 1-0 right here. If that, I don't know if you feel that way, if you guys feel that way, but yeah. But I'm just going to knock him out with the foul play at this point, as that is the game. Very good game to DD Quad. He definitely brought a different team that I expected. Definitely glad to see no Cloisters. That thing was definitely annoying to prep for. So we are now 1-1 with the +1 differential, I think, because we lost to Rob last week. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure you smash that like button down below, and you gotta stay woke.